real rugged and raw. We bought a half acre with grand acres, and that's a mistake we are never doing again. Let me just tell you guys. Yeah, moving forward, we'll be buying whole acres and above. Because it's amazing! It's amazing! My God! The process has been A1, and we have everything that someone needs to get as soon as they finish buying land. Ama unafikiria aje Bi Mkuru?
Kabisa. Yani hata sina words za kuongezea. It's been a
smooth sailing journey.
Exactly.
Good.
Yes.
Hapo sawa. Unajua hiyo story? My name is Abel Mutua.
Stephanie Mumbwa.
Judy Nyawera.
And we are land in Kenya!
Pretty boy Rasta live and direct. Shout out to all the loyal Wakurugenzi. With me is none other than the land connoisseur himself, Manati Bila Grady, Pedi wa Mashake. Shamba ya Karen unaiangalia kwa nini? Una window shop pizza na pesa ya madondo? Surely.
Insta black, Twitter black, Facebook, TikTok black. Build a home with you. Build a home with you. And I could be anywhere in the world, but home is where I'm with you.
Hi, Amisha. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Azima Properties Limited. On Instagram, Juguna7. I see you, Annabelle.karaoke, John Madaga, Wanji Mwas. I see you all on Instagram. Thank you so much for tuning in. Same with all of you on TikTok, Facebook. Where else? YouTube and LinkedIn. We're streaming live on all those platforms. So, karibuni sana. It's Kiki. It's _Kiki.j. I see your comment. We'll get to that one. Thank you for tuning in. It's now 7:03 p.m. Thursday, the 23rd of November, 2023. And what a pleasure to be alive and well, and to have this conversation, this opportunity to have these conversations with each other around property investments, which means we're all hopeful about our futures. Otherwise, why bother investing, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and thank you all so much. It's 4 minutes past. So to save on time, because we only get to do this for an hour every Thursday, we've done away with our Tuesday live calls and recorded messages, just because it seems that you all are too shy to ask your questions live or send voice notes that we can play on speaker. So we'll stick to the Thursday format. Ask Solo Thursdays, where you can send in your questions, comments about real estate investing, concerns, learnings, something interesting you've seen recently. Everything is okay. As always, be respectful. That's our only rule. Be respectful of others. No foul language. Let's keep it kosher. Let's keep it beneficial for everyone. So if you know someone you like, love, respect that would benefit from this session today, please go ahead and share the link with them immediately before we start asking questions and having convo, so that they don't miss out. As always, good vibes only. So make sure it's only for those you like, love, and respect. Okay? Share the link, like our videos, subscribe. It helps us get the word out better. So please, if you haven't subscribed to any of our channels yet, Own Land in Kenya or Goshen Acquisitions on YouTube, please take time to do so. We really appreciate that, and it helps us achieve the goal, which is to empower as many people as possible with the information they require to own land safely in Kenya. Without much further ado, I hand over to you all. Send in your questions and we'll try and tackle as many of them as possible. Okay, first one here, it's from it's_kiki.j. I didn't see that was the first question. Hello, Solomon. I would love to meet you in person. I have this great idea. Please, can I get a chance? It's_kiki.j. Thank you for that comment. Best way to go about that is to DM us on WhatsApp. The number is 0700010001. I'll repeat that one more time. 0700010001. Share your details. If you can, share some information about what it is you'd like to meet about, just so we can be efficient with our time. Okay, so, and we'll take it from there and schedule an appointment if feasible. Okay, I hope that helps, but thank you so much. What's up, Gladys? See, you just copy paste. Copy paste. I'm talking to Gladys. Yeah, she's always here with me. Yeah, she's having technical issues putting up the questions on the screen for me to read. So don't be alarmed. I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to someone. There was another question up here that you. This one. Okay, Ahadi. Okay, Ahadi Group. Thank you. It's nice to see you guys as always. You guys are serial Thursday Live participants and the Goshen Acquisitions Grand Acres customers. We had to brag on you guys a little bit. Thank you for your question or comment, and I'll read it out loud. What is the benefit of having your title deeds under your trust or company rather than your name? I'll repeat that one more time. What is the benefit of having your title deeds under your trust or registered to your trust or company rather than your name, your personal name? Okay. There's a number of benefits, mostly to do with tax efficiencies, depending on the kind of corporate entity you register. Now, trusts are typically used to handle succession. These are long-term sort of structures that people use to hold assets and manage those assets even after the principal has moved to heaven or passed on, for the benefit of their successors. And that can take all sorts of shapes and sizes, and there's lots of nuances, very subjective because they depend on the person setting up the trust. And companies are typically used in many of the same ways, but make more sense when you're in the business of flipping or having high turnover in terms of purchasing and selling, because it comes with tax efficiencies like claiming expenses, which are accounted for before net profits are computed, therefore reducing your tax burden. You can have shares in companies that can be sold to others to increase the capital base and that sort of thing. Okay, now those are done for reasons other than yourself. So if you're going to register a property in your name, it's fine. You know, it's not a question of one's better than the other per se. It just depends on the reason for your ownership of that asset and your long-term plans for it. So if you're going to own something in your name, clearly there are certain things you cannot claim as expense because the property is owned by you as an investment. That brings into light matters around capital gains tax. When you do sell the thing, you're going to have to pay a 15% capital gains tax on top of whatever other income taxes There might be, depending on your volume of transactions and that sort of thing. If you pass away, obviously that puts into jeopardy the management or ownership of that asset, because it has to go through succession, especially if you don't have a will in place. It's just messier if it's in your name as opposed to a trust, for instance, or even a company. Okay, and those are the main differences, in my opinion, between owning a property and a separate vehicle from yourself personally. Other than that, because of the very subjective nature of the intentions of using either or, as always, you have to seek the advice and counsel of professionals. We are not advocates. I am not a licensed advocate of the High Court of Kenya. It's why I always make noise about making sure you talk to one, engage one. They can advise you appropriately with regards to what the law says, advantages, disadvantages, and you can make opinions or decisions based on their opinions as qualified professionals. My opinions just shared now are shared as an individual who has bought and sold land, both as an individual and as a company. I interact with lawyers. So that's my opinion based on my experience. But as always, seek the counsel of licensed professionals. In this case, you're going to be looking for a corporate lawyer or a succession lawyer. There's lots of entities here. I want to give out to a shout out to Anjawala and Kana, because we actually had a conversation with them on camera, which you can find on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, this is why you should subscribe. Get access to that amazing content. We had a great conversation with the head of real estate for Anjawala and Kana, advocates who are voted or rated the best law firm in Africa, the whole continent, which is a privilege to have here in Nairobi, just down the road from our office. They happen to be our advocates on our heaviest transactions. It's why we had that conversation with them, and we specifically touched on trusts, and they help people set up trusts depending on their specific goals and objectives. So you want to have conversations with licensed professionals like them and make the best informed decision for the best way for you. Okay, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Have a conversation. It's like seeing a doctor. You have to describe your symptoms, your pains, your discomforts, which are very personal. Not everyone experiences the same disease the same way. Express those as truthfully and as openly and as transparently to your advocate, just like you would a doctor, and they will prescribe the right medication or solution for you. Okay, I hope that helps. And all success to you guys, as always, Ahadi Group. Thank you. Okay, we have another one here from Azima Properties Limited on Instagram, saying, hello, kindly elaborate on the difference between a 50 by 100 and an eighth of an acre. Okay, thank you for that question, Azima Properties. A 50 by 100, the units are typically in feet. So when you see 100 by 100, 50 by 100, those dimensions are in feet, okay, not meters. A 50 by 100 and an eighth of an acre are exactly the same thing. There is no difference, because you're specifically referring to the size of a parcel or plot of land, okay? Now, an eighth of an acre can take all sorts of dimensions that compute with the same acreage or the area covered. I mean, you guys understand this. You can have a circle, a square, and a triangle next to each other that all cover the same space or have the same amount of space within, but their dimensions are different. The circle will have a single dimension, which is a diameter, single line that goes around. A square will have 4 dimensions because of four sides or 4 faces. A triangle will have 3. So the dimensions are not as important as a square meterage, square footage, whatever unit you're using. That's what we're referring to when we talk about an eighth of an acre. In Kenya, for whatever reason, 50 by 100 has become synonymous with an eighth of an acre. even though an eighth of an acre can take on a dimension like, I don't know, 60 by 90, 70 by 80. It's about the area that you're dealing with, not the length of the sites. But to answer your question, Azima Properties Limited, an eighth of an acre and 50 by 100 are the exact same thing. Okay, the same way that a 100 by 100 is the exact same thing as a quarter of an acre. I hope that helps. And thank you for your question. Viral food videos says, my question, what are the effects of adding value to land by land sellers? Example, fence, roads, water, power. What are the effects of adding value? Well, viral food videos, I think you've answered your question in your question. The effects of adding value is value. Okay, anything you do to improve the condition or desirability of that property increases its value, its monetary value. Okay, so to whatever extent that you do any of those things like, fencing, doing roads, what quality of roads are you doing? Are you just clearing mchanga, pouring maram so it's all weather access as opposed to only dry weather access? Okay, are you doing cobblestones or cabro versus tarmac? All those interventions, depending on the standard, the caliber, the quality, have cost implications. Some are vastly more expensive than others, which is why only governments typically tend to tarmac roads. It's extremely expensive. Okay. Now that intervention will have a material effect on the value of the property because it is more desirable to more people. And whenever you own property, your ultimate goal is to make sure that your property is as desirable to as many human beings as possible while you own it, so that when you do want to potentially liquidate it, sell it, or build apartments on it, the location is desirable, it has clean access, all-weather access with nice tarmac roads or cobblestone roads, like we're doing on our project in Acacia Cove in Nanyuki. You have a much better chance of selling for the highest value possible, which is the whole point of investment. You want to maximize your profits, right? So that's, in a nutshell, the effect of adding value to land by land sellers. And I thank you for your question. Okay, viral food videos elaborates further by saying, I mean to ask, does this affect price of land? Should I, as a buyer, be focused on these and not just bare land? Absolutely. As I've said, the higher the desirability, the higher the value. The market determines the value. Basic rule of thumb is the more human beings want something, the more valuable it is. The fewer the number of human beings that want something, the lower its value. It's all based on human desire and how many. Okay, diamonds are valued as they are for a specific reason. Gold has its value, intrinsic value, based on its rarity. I once heard a gold investor say that there's less than an ounce of gold for every human being on this planet. Less than an ounce of gold for every human being on this planet, hence its value. Now, if there was, say, 20 ounces of gold for every human being, I suspect that its value would come down because it's less rare and yet everyone wants it. So all these dynamics come to play, and the same is true for land. The most desirable plots of land in Nairobi, for instance, are the most high-end areas, are the most organized, the ones with more trees, the ones with better infrastructure, better amenities, better access to supporting amenities like schools, hospitals, and that sort of thing, better security. This is exactly the point. And you as a buyer should certainly use that as a measuring stick to decide whether or not you should buy something instead of just buying bare land. Okay? It's not just about 50 by 100, clean title ready, 350K, pay 60K today and 12 months installments. That's part of it, yes, but very tiny fraction of the parameters you should be using to decide whether or not you should be buying land somewhere. Okay? I hope that helps. Thank you. Masterpiece_king on Instagram. Thank you for tuning in, whoever you are. You say, I have some units at Mombasa Road and the others at Kilimani, close to Yaya Center for sale. Can you help? Unfortunately, not Masterpiece_king. We are not agents or brokers. Grand Acres and Goshen Acquisitions have made a brand promise right from the onset, right at inception in 2012, that we only sell what we own, as opposed to what agents, or unlike what agents and brokers do. And not to say that it is bad to be an agent or a broker, it's just not our business model. So if it's not something we own, it's not something we talk about or market or sell. So in that regard, Masterpiece_king, I don't think we can help. We are not the right partner for you. And there's many other professionals out there who would be great partners for you. If you can DM us on WhatsApp, again, the number is 07-001-0001. I will personally make recommendations of great agents that we work with from time to time, and we're picky because we've kissed a ton of ugly frogs before we found our princesses to work with, and we'll be happy to share their contacts with you. Thank you for asking. Meditating Relaxing says, hello, I have purchased land and have all the documents as advised. How does one ensure the land is not sold or transferred to another without my knowledge? That's a great question, Meditating Relaxing. Ultimately, if the authorities who are in charge of holding custody of ownership records and documents want to engage in foul play, there's only so much you can do. But one of the things we recommend for people to do, especially if you intend to hold the property for the long term, is register a caution. Register a caution on that property yourself against the title. It will go on record. The one who registered a caution on a property has to be the one who lifts it. The only one who can lift a caution off a property besides the person who registered it, being yourself as the owner, is a high court judge. Okay, so a great way to sort of safely encumber your property to ensure that anyone else trying to transfer its ownership without your knowledge cannot do so without you being consulted, because they would have to get the caution lifted off before any transfer can happen. If a transfer is somehow, strangely, whether by witchcraft or corruption or theft, without your caution being lifted, then you're covered. The authorities in charge of ensuring that due process has been followed then become liable. So that's a great way to go about securing your property if you're holding it for the long term, to ensure that it doesn't get transferred from out of your name, from under your nose. Okay, another great thing to do, depending on the kind of property that you're holding, is to charge the property to your most loyal banker, your bank. Charge the property and open a line of credit. It's what I do from time to time. Surrender the title to your bank, let them register a charge after determining its value, and that is at their discretion because they have to determine its value to manage their risk and exposure. They will register a charge on that property, and you can either borrow against the property responsibly, of course, and not necessarily because you want to use the money, but because you simply want to encumber it And it's also a great way to open up lines of credit with your bank, having the title deed as security for allowing you to tap into cash on emergency basis, or if an amazing opportunity comes by and you need to bust a move quickly. You know, that's just my opinion. As always, we're not financial advisors. Consult your licensed professionals, financial advisors, advocates. They can guide you more succinctly and you'll be safe. Thank you for that question. Thank you for putting that on the larger screen, much easier to see. What is the process of registering a Goshen? I'll send you the process because we could be talking about that for the for the duration of our call today. So, meditating, relaxing, please DM us on WhatsApp. Number again 0700010001 0700010001, and we will share the steps you can follow. But again, a licensed advocate can assist you with that. Okay. Dennis Waidaka on TikTok. What's up, Dennis? Thank you for tuning in. Dennis says, I have an allotment letter for a land I inherited. How can I get proper ownership of the land? Allotment letter. Okay. Dennis, I think if you're completed with the succession process and it has been determined that you should be the one to inherit the property with an allotment letter, you would have to engage a licensed advocate, a registered planner, to help you with the rest of the process. You'll need to work very diligently with the county authorities and the Department of Survey. You essentially have to go through what is in essence an adjudication process where the allotment is processed into a title deed. Okay, it's a very technical and legal procedure. It's not something you can do on your own. Anyone who tells you that is either an idiot or ignorant, or both. Get yourself a licensed advocate. Please don't try to do it on your own to help you with that. And make sure you measure thrice and cut once. It's not something you want to redo if something is done combo or outside of due process. You cannot afford that. Get it done right the first time, and you'll be okay. But it's possible to convert the allotment letter into a title deed, whether lease or freehold. That will be determined by the relevant authorities. Mostly has to do with its location. Is it in an urban, town sort of commercial setting? Is it rural? You know, all that will determine what eventually happens. But a licensed advocate of High Court of Kenya, registered planner, a good surveyor who will liaise with the Department of Survey and work with the county authorities as well as a local registry. All success to you, Dennis Waidaka. Mark Gasheru on YouTube. What's up, Mark? Thank you for tuning in. Mark says, good evening. Do you have a personal experience you can share on a piece of land you planned to buy but led to an unplanned for legal process? Okay, let me repeat that question. Good evening. Do you have a personal experience you can share on a piece of land that you planned to buy but led to an unplanned for or unexpected legal process? Yeah, given that we buy and sell land and that we only sell what we own, at some point it means we have to be buying, so we're constantly buying. And when you're buying as frequently as people like us do, inevitably you're going to come across situations that are unexpected. One that comes more immediately to mind has to do with a rather large block of land, about 200 acres within Kajiado County, that we came to terms with the owners about, agreed on the price, met the family members, everyone was in agreement. These were, in essence, going to be 4 title deeds of 50-acre blocks each. Okay, so 4 properties, each was 50 acres, totaling 200 acres. Now, what we intended to do was to amalgamate the 4 into one single block, which would facilitate our change of use and master planning processes, because you cannot master plan and change use on multiple blocks of land at the same time. The authorities will only deal with one property at a time if you're going to do change of user and master planning, subdivision, that sort of thing. So you have to combine all the 4 parcels into one, and then engage the authorities for your change of users in that sense. I hope we're together so far. Because of that, we put in our sale agreement that this was the intention. Our payments to the family would be based on the milestones around amalgamating or combining the 4 separate properties into one larger one, which we would then take legal possession of as Goshen Acquisitions, being a single title. Now, as part of our due diligence, because sometimes when we're competing with other buyers, we don't have time to do surveys, full-blown survey reports before we secure the opportunity with a 10% deposit, which is a minimum required deposit by the Law Society of Kenya. Okay, sometimes the sellers will not allow you enough time to do your due diligence before you engage formally, and there's other vultures sort of circling around to take advantage of the same opportunity. So we did the sale agreement with all the terms in place, paid the deposit, and then made a deep dive into the survey part of our due diligence, just to confirm the boundaries, the beaconing positions, and so on. Especially in Kajiado County, with freehold agricultural lands, it's not uncommon to have discrepancies of details on a title deed versus the reality on the ground, okay? Which is the primary reason we engaged in a fairly heavy survey exercise, which, as it turns out, told us that one of the 50-acre title deeds had an extra 17 acres on the ground than the title deed said. So, title deed said the parcel of land registry number such and such and such is 50 acres in size, but on the ground, it was actually an extra 17 acres larger, which is 67 acres. Now, by authoritative policy from the Department of Survey, when you have such a huge discrepancy of details on title versus reality on the ground, you have to amend the documents to match the reality on the ground, or amend the situation on the ground to match the documents. In this case, they determined that it's the documents that were erroneous. We had to change the documents. Now that means that our purchasing process had to be paused until the family can fix that issue, which involves all manner of land control board sittings, which meet only once a month. There were expenses that had to be incurred to get the survey and land registry officers to come to the grounds to confirm the boundaries, do a report, and make recommendations on which documents have to be amended, including the registry index map, the mutation form, and of course the title deed, the details on the title deed. And all that has to be done before we can even proceed with our purchase. So that was very unexpected in that sense, even though not surprising given the size of land that we were purchasing, but these are common. Other situations can be a bit more dire, especially when you find that there's double titles for the same property. You're buying one property with one title deed, someone else at the same time is buying the same property with another original title deed. We came across a situation like that once. Thankfully, our title deed was proven to be the legitimate one by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Forensic Investigations, and we won the day. Again, the importance of doing your due diligence well before you risk capital cannot be understated or overstated, I should say. So take your time, don't cut any corners, measure thrice, cut once, and you can have peace knowing that should anything come up that challenges your ownership or puts at risk the capital that you know used, that you are absolved from any wrongdoing. And in some cases, especially when the government is at fault, which is the issuing authority of land ownership documents, then they are responsible for making you whole. And there's lots of precedents about that, which you can simple Google search will be helpful for. So, interesting question, Mark. I'm not sure why you felt to ask that, but I hope that gives you an idea of what sorts of unplanned legal processes would come up. Another one I can share real quick is denial of compliance certificate by corrupt officials in a county department, the one that's in charge of approving change of use in subdivisions. We had this experience in Laikipia County, which was very painful, and we had to sue the county, took the county to court to fight for what was ours. By God's grace, we came out on top of that situation as well, but it killed 2.5 years of precious time when it really should have only taken 3 to 4 months. So every situation, every opportunity comes with its own set of potential risks. You need to be prepared for that mentally, psychologically, and more importantly, have in place specific things you can do immediately to deal with those specific situations. Great idea to have a licensed advocate of the High Court of Kenya in your corner at all times. You know, I think of advocates the same way I do my personal doctor or dentist. You never know when you're going to need them. So be deliberate and diligent about building a good relationship with them. Allow them to know you, understand you as intimately as possible. It's not just a cold commercial transaction. An advocate needs to be able to fight for you as if they were the ones in jeopardy. That's the whole point and meaning of the word advocate in its purest sense. Someone who empathizes, sympathizes, feels your pain as if they were the one in jeopardy and fights for your rights with this giant sword they call the knowledge of the law, right? So build relationships early. Don't wait until you're in crisis to reach out to these professionals. Network, build relationships, pick the right ones early when you have time to assess them, their character, get references, get recommendations. Great way to find good ones is just to ask people and they'll tell you who the good ones are. As always, make sure that they're licensed, do your DD on them. And when you need them in situations like these, Mark, you're covered. I hope that helps, and thank you for your very interesting question. James Otieno says, when are you subdividing? When you are subdividing land, who comes up with the mutation form? Well, the mutation form has to be prepared by a licensed surveyor. Okay, that's who prepares the mutation form. The mutation form is a pre-existing template issued by the government of Kenya, Department of Survey of the Ministry of Lands. Okay, but it is prepared by a licensed surveyor. Can't do it on your own. It has to be stamped and prepared in a very particular manner, otherwise it will be rejected. So there's your answer, James Otieno. The _Jess_KE on Instagram says, thank you for tuning in, the _Jess_KE for listening, but you're saying, can one locate land by just using a map if you're at a proximity, but you ain't sure of your own plot? No, you can guess, you can guesstimate. If you're really good at reading maps and understanding the scale of that particular map, assuming that your reference point is accurate in the first place on the ground, because beacons move all the time. Guys, don't try and take shortcuts. There's a reason people go to school to learn how to be surveyors, register planners, license advocates, blah, blah, blah. Don't try to be a smart ass. Okay? Get the license professional to help you. In your case, the_just_KE, hire a surveyor to help you identify or locate your land. You can't do it by guesstimation or proximity. There's no such thing as proximity. It's very specific. The beacon point is very specific. It's a specific point on the ground within the sovereign boundaries of the Republic of Kenya, as mapped and documented by the Department of Survey of the Ministry of Lands. So there's no other way I can give you an answer to that, and I hope that helps. Thank you. MVVS on TikTok. Thanks, MVVS, for tuning in. You say, where can someone find the properties you sell? MVVS, very easy. Our properties are listed in detail on our website, which is www.grandacres.co.ke. I'll repeat that. Some of you should be seeing the website sort of scrolling somewhere here at the bottom on your screen, depending on what platform you're tuned into. It's www.grandacres.co.ke, or you can simply do a Google search for Grand Acres or Goshen Acquisitions, will lead you to the exact same page, and all our properties are listed there. Should you find anything you're interested in, please reach out as quickly as possible. We would be so happy to engage with you, and hopefully get you to be a proud owner of land in Kenya, if you're not already. So thank you for that question, MBBS. Rock a Pair on YouTube. Is that YouTube or Insta? YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, Rock a Pair. In your experience, what's the best way to navigate land investment? The cash price way or in installments? In my experience, paying cash is the best. Rule of thumb is reduce the amount of time between your deposit and your final payment as much as possible. Obviously, if you don't have the cash to do so, installments are the next best thing, because you don't want to lose the opportunity. You're better off taking time to own it by paying in installments than not becoming an owner. You know, Kikuyu gentleman once said to me in Kikuyu, interestingly, which I don't speak or understand, but he graciously translated for me thereafter, a saying, a Kikuyu saying, which I was surprised the Kikuyus actually have a saying about this. But in essence, in English, he said, you cannot win in a poker game unless your cards are on the table. Yeah, you have to play the game to win the game, in essence. So if you don't have cash to buy the land, you're better off paying in installments. But in my experience, best way is to pay cash, or even if you're doing 2 payments, deposit and balance later, reduce that time to the lowest amount possible within your means. Thank you, Rockapair. That's a great question. Grand Acres Limited. Okay, that's not a question. How do you pronounce that?
Tierra.
Tierra on Grand Acres Facebook. Okay, Tierra Close.
Closet Club.
Tierra Closet Plug. Man, where do people come up with these random names? Tierra Closet Plug on Instagram. Thank you, Tierra Closet Plug. Which lands are available for a budget of 500K? Okay, Tierra, if you're asking about our properties, currently there are none. They sold out. Killy Point specifically flew out the window. We're hoping to have something else in that budget range as soon as we can manage. When we don't know, stay tuned. We will advertise and let you know. Okay, and for further reference, please just go to our website www.grandacres.co.ke, and we'll be happy to add you to our early buyers list, early bird list, so that the next time we do have a product which is land at that price range, you will be informed before we ever go public with it. Okay. Kolo.muridi on Instagram. What's up, Kolo? Thank you for tuning in. Kolo says, do we have another project similar to Acacia Cove coming up in the near future? Yes, Kolo, we do. We can't say anything yet. It's still in the kitchen cooking, but super excited. It's going to be about 6 times the size of Acacia Cove, if you can imagine that. A whopping 300-acre mixed-use development somewhere in Laikipia County. Similar, if not better than Acacia Cove. So if you're interested, like I just advised the last questioner, send us a message on WhatsApp. The number is 0700010001. We'll put you on the early bird list so that you get notified before we go public, and which is a great thing because we typically offer those at amazing discounts for early bird buyers. So stay tuned for that, and I can't wait to inform you about it. Okay. Harry_Kiche on Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. He says, number one, how does one pay the stamp duty? Stamp duty is paid now through the iTax platform to the Kenya Revenue Authority after going through assessment of valuation to determine what the stamp duty amount should be. Okay, very technical process. Work with licensed advocates to help you. Don't try and do it on your own. How can one verify paid stamp duty? Receipt issued by the Kenya Revenue Authority, official receipt. Okay, obviously accompanied by your deposit slips or payment receipts from the bank that you use to pay to the iTax platform. Very easy to do these days because of the online platforms that government is instituting as part of the digitization of the process. Big thumbs up to Ministry of Lands for that. Number 3, do you have any projects in any of the western counties in Kenya? Currently, we do not, but I am sure soon we will because we're actively scouting. We've received so many requests from investors out there like yourself, and we so look forward to making that available when it's ready. And again, like the last questioner, please send us a WhatsApp if you're interested. We'll put you on an early bird notification list so that when we do have it, you will find out before anyone else, and great discounts available for you as well. Mark Gasheru, hey, Mark is back. He says, where seeps water? ... The reason for my question was to have a wider idea of the extent legal processes can go to. Okay, please remind me what Mark's first question was. Okay, about the unplanned legal processes we had to deal with when we were buying land. Yeah, Mark, it's a reality with property investments, not just in Kenya, but probably globally. We used to do this in the US as well. We used to flip homes in the US before we came back home to start Goshen acquisitions in 2012. Same situation there. Due diligence is everything. Flag any problems before they become costly and painful. So yes, Mark, do it right, measure thrice, cut once, and you'll be fine. It's possible to go through it without any issues. Just Do it right. Don't be in a rush. Work with licensed professionals, and you'll be good. Okay, we have 10 minutes. We can cover a few more questions. Hey, there's Washu. What's up, Washu? We were wondering what happened to you. Washu says on Facebook, I think that's the imaginary satellite map that they give you to choose your plot from. You gotta make sure the actual subdivisions are done by a licensed surveyor. Absolutely right, Washu. I think Washu is making reference to identifying your plot using proximity with a map. Absolutely right, Washu. Licensed surveyor, no shortcuts. If it's not a map with land registry numbers indicated on it, it's useless. Okay. Viral Food Video says, please briefly expound on the Sectional Properties Act and changes in properties. Changes in properties. I'm not sure I understand your question, Viral Food Videos. If you could, if you're still online, please clarify that further so I know how to answer your question. Because the Sectional Properties Act is quite wide-ranging. What changes in properties might you be referring to? Please clarify. I'll be happy to give you my 2 cents on that. What's up, Gladys? Sir_Collins_Omutoko. This is on Instagram, right? Thank you, Sir Collins Omutoko, for tuning in. Collins says, do you have any projects in Kitale? Currently not, Collins. We are actually scouting some opportunities in Kitale. Nothing has quite clicked yet, but we will be sure to let you know once we do. And thank you for asking. Okay. Washu says, I think it's the titled apartments. Titled, yes, Washu, I do get that question from Viral Food Videos, who further clarifies by saying, I mean, changes in properties in terms of the title deeds for apartments. Okay, so the Sectional Properties Act was signed into law by our former president, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Groundbreaking changes in real estate by that act. Massive applause to him for that, because it's been in the works for decades. And for whatever reason, he was the first president who was able to get that through into law. So the Sectional Properties Act, in essence, made it possible for apartment units in a building to be issued their own individual title deed, the same way as a piece of land gets issued a title deed. Before this was passed into law, owners of apartments in a building could not hold or own their own title. They were usually listed as sub-lessees of the main lease for the piece of land that the whole building sat on. That lease was typically held in custody by the developer. And lots of issues with that, because some crooked developers, even after selling off the apartments and listing all the sub-lessees, the owners, the new buyers and owners of the apartment blocks that they developed, would use those titles to borrow from the bank thereafter. And if things went sideways like they typically did, the bank would have to foreclose and auction the units, never mind that they did not belong to the developer. And this obviously presented big issues for the banks, because there was a legal lacuna there, technicality that prevented them from liquidating that asset as easily as they would any other one. It was just messy, as you can imagine. Messy, messy, messy. So the Sectional Properties Act finally made it possible for apartment units to be issued their own separate title deed based on the floor plan that it covered, which had to be submitted by the developer along with the working drawings for construction at the point of getting approvals. so that as they get completed and get issued certificates of occupancy and that sort of thing, separate title deeds are issued for each apartment unit. Big change, because now that means that credit from banks would flow better, because each individual owner could leverage their unit separately from each other, whereas before they were all listed on a single title deed as sub-lessees, which was also not accurate. They were not sub-lessees. They were owners of units that happened to occupy space in a building on the same singular piece of land. So that's the biggest change. More security for the apartment owners, which is huge, which also means better securitization for the bankers in terms of the individual property owners borrowing against their assets or even financing to purchase the assets. It's a better securitization, it's cleaner, it's neater, less liability for everyone involved. And those will be the biggest highlights for me. I hope that helps. Okay. Washu is asking, are the titles actually given as we speak? Yes, plenty are being processed and being issued. There's been delays, obviously, with RD House digitization. It's a new thing, so other policies have to be created internally by the ministry heads and officials in terms of what documents, what templates need to be used and that sort of thing, but it is currently happening. As always, work with licensed advocates to assist you. Don't try and do it on your own. And they're a great resource to tell you what the status is, particularly for your own registry if not being issued by RD House. Hi, Helen Boyumba. I recognize that name. Helen is one of our amazing customers at Grand Acres. Been a while since we spoke, Helen. It's so good to see your name up on the screen. Thank you for tuning in. Helen says, Kitale, please. Yes, Helen, I hear you. Kitale is 45 minutes drive from my home in Webuye. I am itching so hard to get something transactionable in Kitale. Like I shared before, we are actually scouting some opportunities. So if they go through, you'll be one of the first calls we make, because after all, you're a member of the Greater Gains community. As a Goshen Acquisitions customer, automatically you get notified way before anyone else. You're the super duper early bird list. So have no fear. As soon as we find something in Kitale, we will let you know. And thank you for asking. Okay, we got 2 more minutes. Moha_Amin on TikTok says, what are the agreements on a lease term? Moha_Amin, I'm not sure what you're asking exactly. Who is making the agreements? That's the first question I'll ask you. And what do you mean by a lease term? Are you talking about leasing land as opposed to buying land? Please give me more context so that I can answer you accurately. Moha_Amin. No more questions? Okay, Gladys, since we have no more questions, you have to give me one. Question from Gladys.
George can help me.
Georgie, you've been thrown under the bus. Do you have any question or a comment? Have you guys seen anything interesting in the news lately that touches on property ownership? Something that you're happy about, something that you're unhappy about? Please let us know. It doesn't always have to be negative. Despite the problems we have in our market, there's lots of beautiful stories out there. So if you have something you can share real quick, we're out of time. We have maybe a minute left. We can do that. Joji is quiet. He's not feeling that plan. Joji is about to join.
No, I'm feeling it. Maybe maybe Solo, you can let us know about probably this whole affordable housing. What's your opinion? I saw some projects being because we've
Joji,
all
that's
been
the worst
interested.
question to bring up
What would be your opinion
with
on that?
1 minute overtime. So George is just asking me to make a comment or share my opinion about the whole affordable housing agenda and progress. Man, that requires like two days, 18 hours, and like 5 minutes to cover. But I will say it's long overdue. The whole agenda is one of the big four pillars of the previous administration that has survived the change in administration to the current one for good reason. Housing is a basic need, basic human need. I think the last report I read suggested that in Kenya we are about 200,000 units a year behind demand, meaning every year we're developing and there's 200,000 units needed that haven't been built every year. Obviously, affordability is important because of income considerations. Home ownership should not be out of reach because it's a basic human need, a critical one. And so I think it's a great initiative, a solid agenda for the government to have. They've done lots of things right. For instance, offering up idle public lands, government owned lands for developers to build on. Okay, so that the developer is not worried about spending billions of shillings just to buy the land before they even build. This goes a long way in bringing down the cost of the development so that it becomes truly affordable. So I think that's a great thing. I'm not sure the government has enough land in every part of the country to provide 200,000 units every year so that every Kenyan has access to decent housing. That remains to be seen, but there's lots of other issues. For instance, the housing levy, very controversial for good reason. I'm one of those who doesn't really quite get the point of making everyone contribute to a housing levy, even when they have a house already, or maybe would not be willing to take up the kind of house that the levy uh, avails to them. There's also restrictions on who can take it up. If I make 150K and above, or over 150K a month, I am disqualified from purchasing one of these units. Yet, every month, a deduction is made against my salary towards it. I think there's problems there that need to be ironed out, but overall, I think it's not something we can escape. We just need to find the best way to go about it. And I hope we can get our act together as soon as possible for the sake of everyone who needs decent, quality, dignified housing, which is a point to confer dignity to one another as fellow human beings. So to that extent, big up to the government, and we pray that they get it right. That being said, thanks to Joji, it's 4 minutes past 8 p.m. Because we respect time here at Goshen Acquisitions, because we say time is money and money buys land. We won't take up any more of yours on this beautiful evening. Thank you so much for making time to be part of this conversation. For everyone who sent in a question, thank you, thank you, thank you. We don't take it for granted at all that you take time out of your precious evening to join us in this convo. After all, it's why we do it. Without you, there's no point. And I hope we've all learned something new. If you have something pressing that you still want to reach out to us about, we are available on WhatsApp. Again, the number is 0700010001. You can also, DM us on Facebook, Instagram. We'll be happy to reach out to you if it can't wait until next Thursday. Until then, God bless and grand acres to you all. Cheers.
Hapa nilikuja bila kitu na sitoki bila kitu, mwanangu azaliwe na kakitu, usitoke bila kitu. Aye, kila siku naishi kama sina kitu, mishowe miliwe na kakitu.